Welcome to the haunting of the paranormally possessed. Today I review the third installment of the Conjuring franchise, The Devil Made Me Do It. The demonic case that shocked America. Directed by Michael Chaves, starring Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, and Ruairi O'Connor. This film is about the Warrens. You know who they are at this point. They're a real couple that covered demonic and possession cases in the 70s and 80s. This time around, they have an interesting case that they've never experienced before, where they actually have to take a victim and defend them against a court of law because he's on trial for murder. And his case is that he was possessed. It's up to the Warrens to find the clues, solve the crimes, and prove Aaron's innocence. I want to start this off by saying the thing I find most scary with these Conjuring films is the fact that these are based on real life events. To me, that is the creepiest thing ever. What I love about the Conjuring films, especially in this one, is the end credits. I love that we actually get to see real footage and real photos of the Warrens cracking this case. And when it comes to this film here, the story is very different in the sense that it becomes more of a murder mystery than them dealing with demonic possessions. And I found because of this, when we did get our jump scares, they were very genuine. And they didn't try and add fake scares to this or like falsify what was happening too much to embellish the facts. Yes, it's not gonna be word for word truth of what really happened because it is a movie, but I do like they try and keep it as realistic as possible. And because of this, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga nail their roles again. They are perfect as Ed and Lorraine Warren. And in this one, they added a different dynamic to their characters. They went a little further with their backstory and how they met. You felt more sympathy with Vera Farmiga's character as Lorraine Warren, even to the point where there were certain scenes where they were looking more into the occult and demonic possessions. You saw how scared she was, and you really felt like, oh my God, don't go in that room, don't touch that object, don't hold that person's hands, because you knew she didn't want to do it, but she had to if they wanted to help Arnie and prove his innocence. And when it comes to the scares, Michael Chaves did a fantastic job with the cinematography and setting everything up. There's a lot of breathing room. They hold the shots for a long time, they do these long takes, and they let the audience take in the scene. They let them feel the atmosphere, feel that tension, and because of the buildup of that silence, when something happens, you're just frightened. And of course, jump scares aside, it's just a beautifully shot film. They did a really good job with the lighting. They did a really good job how they were framing the shots, even to the point in one of the opening scenes when the priest comes to the house, it almost looks like it's straight out of The Exorcist. And of course, I have to give credit to Ruairi O'Connor, who plays Arnie, the person who's on trial for murder and is claimed to be possessed by a demon. His acting was really good, whether you felt bad for him and you saw the fear in his eyes to the point where he was menacing, possessed by a demon. Now, talking about being possessed by a demon, that is also one of the downfalls I found of this film, is the focus wasn't really on the actual possession that was happening. In The Conjuring 1 and 2, you had the film taking place as you're witnessing the demon playing their tricks on those around them. And in this film, because Arnie was locked up in a prison, the Warrens didn't really interact with him. So there wasn't a lot of jump scares, and there wasn't a lot of times where they found themselves actually fighting a demon or building that tension to you thinking a demon is going to come out. And when you did see it, it did come off campy and lame. I didn't like the look of these demonic characters. In particular, I think they could have done without the scene in the morgue because it just created a whole different feel for the film. This may come off as a bit of a spoiler, but Ed's interaction with one of the corpses just took me out of everything that I was watching. It didn't add anything to the film, and it was just something that felt too over the top for what was actually taking place. And again, talking about Ed's character, the stuff that they brought to him in this film, they just weren't consistent enough with it. What ends up happening is Ed has a heart attack early on in the film, and you think that's gonna slow him down or they're gonna tie it in throughout the movie, and they kind of did, but the whole goal of this is just to have a nice sentimental moment at the very end of the film between Ed and Lorraine. Other than that, he's still doing things that he normally would do, despite the fact that he had a heart attack like 3 days ago and had a stent put into his heart. So he shouldn't be able to be like running through forests and like doing intense things by like smashing up rooms. It's just something that no one would be able to do after having a massive heart attack. And they kind of just put it aside when it was convenient. And one of my other biggest issues I have with the story is this wasn't that scary. Like, we did get some really good jump scares, but overall I wasn't terrified when I was watching this film because it's more of an investigation investigation and a murder mystery, they just don't have enough scares that you would hope for. The situations that Ed and Lorraine are put in aren't that terrifying. Like, I like the idea when they're in a single location, like a house, and someone is possessed, because then the house itself and those in the house have these moments where you don't know what's gonna happen, and that fear comes up of anticipation. In this film, there was no anticipation. There wasn't anything that had me on the edge of my seat, and I think a lot of people are gonna be upset with that because you've come to be familiar with The Conjuring being a really scary franchise. And this film, I think, is definitely the weakest of the three. Overall, I had a good time watching this movie. I really enjoy the Conjuring franchise. I love the Conjuring universe. I think they're doing great things with it, and I hope it continues. I'm sure there's a lot more cases that Ed and Lorraine have done in real life that James Wan may pull from in the future, because I do appreciate the franchise. I just felt as though this one just didn't hit the mark for me. And that's not to say what we did see wasn't scary, because it was. And of course, all the actors did a fantastic job. It's a beautifully shot film, and I would recommend it. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 3 waterbeds out of 5. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. And if this is your first time here, well, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything we're doing here on Bloodbath and Beyond.